Minister, in the last 5 years, your government has increased the state's annual budget by almost 50%, with tens of billions of euros extra being spent each year. And yet the OECD still ranks Ireland last out of 36 countries for investment in education. And there are teaching vacancies, as I'm sure you know, with some schools this week saying that they'll have to drop subjects because they don't have enough teachers to fill them. So my question is, at a time of unprecedented spending by the government, why does your department appear to be underfunded? And are you failing as Minister to secure the necessary resources to run an effective education system?
Well, the budget of the Department of Education is over 10 billion euro. It's a very significant, it's the third highest spending department across all departments across the government, which is hugely significant. And we have seen the increase year on year over the last 4 years in terms of the spend. And you reference, the OECD and so on and so forth, but equally so, the measurement that you're referring to there is the other measurement of the GNI star, which actually puts us up very, very high in terms of spending across the OECD. So I think it's we can all choose our research, but equally so, we would say when you look at that type of research, we're one of the top performers in terms of spend on education. And I think if you ask people on the ground in terms of spend in education, there isn't an area or a region without throughout this country where we're not seeing either new school builds or we're seeing school extensions. There isn't an area that hasn't benefited, as I've already outlined, from the free school books. We're seeing huge innovations around we'd say counselling in our schools, the pilots we're running out there. We're seeing a reform of senior cycle. The spend on capital is quite phenomenal over the last 4 years, over 4 billion, almost 5 billion now by the time we complete in terms of school bills. So we have seen a very significant uplift in the spend in education, and of course the spend in special education in particular has been hugely uplifted in the last 4 years. So I think it speaks volumes of the priority that has been placed by government on education, that we're the third highest spending, and I'm very pleased as Minister to have secured such a budget over the last 4 years.
So when it comes to the teacher shortage then, would your view be that that's not attributable to a lack of investment and that there's something else going on there? And if so, what do you think is leading to a shortage of teachers?
Well, in terms of teachers and availability of teachers, I would have to say to you that we have never had as many teachers employed in the system as we do currently. We've more than 74,000 teachers in the system. That's a very significant number of people employed in the system. Equally so, when I've referenced special education there earlier, we've made huge strides in special education, but that requires one teacher with 6 pupils and 2 SNAs. And has that been the right thing to do? Absolutely. And do we want to see more of it? Absolutely. But that does require more and more staff. So that has eaten into, I suppose, availability of staff, but it's the right thing to do.
So it's that there's more classes, which means there's a need for more teachers, which is not quite caught up yet. Would that be the...
Well, that would be part of it. But I would equally say, I acknowledge we're a country at near full employment. I always say that there are challenges right across many sectors, whether it's in tourism or hospitality or healthcare or whatever the case might be. So we do have challenges in many spaces in terms of more and more teachers being required for the system, but we are proactive in that space. We've introduced a bursary of €2,000 for those who are doing the masters in teaching. We have ensured that there are free upskilling courses in subject areas that are particularly challenging, whether it's the maths or the sciences, and I've seen hundreds of students graduate. For example, I attended the graduation in UL there around maths. We have ensured that at post-primary teachers who want to teach additional hours, that they are paid for those additional hours if they wish to teach extra hours. We have almost 4,000 graduates coming out every year from primary school teaching, because we've increased by 20% the number of places available for primary teachers. And equally so, we have just under the 4,000 undergraduates who are making themselves available to teach in our schools, coupled with the primary school teachers or the retired teachers as well. So we're very proactive in this space. I recognise, and I don't underestimate for principals, the challenges that are out there for them. But we will keep doing more and more in this space to ensure that we have the maximum number of people available at any given time for the benefit of our schools.